going on, guys? You're sitting at home on the couch doing nothing? But that's why you're going to subscribe to Black is the New Rich, so you can learn something, educate your family, educate your friends. Do it all. Black is the New Rich. Peace.
So sometimes we're walking around the world and we have feelings and emotions for things and people, but we haven't taken the time to speak to them because we're assuming they should know. And there's those who will say, but Rahel, I did tell them. However, did you communicate it in a way that they would understand? One of the principles of communication that I teach is to know your audience. I think that's a very primary.
That's huge.
You have to be humble to communicate, Cory.
Back again, episode 20 of the Black is the New Rich podcast. Today we got a very special guest. It's our first college professor. So I'm very excited. We're going to go into depth about, the school system and actually what she has going and what she has building up. But further ado, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. So my name is Rahel David. I am college professor by day, but I also run a business called 1000 Training and Consulting. And our goal is to help teams and team leaders improve their communication by communicating effectively and knowing what that is and how to do it. I also run projects and I do consulting for projects with a social enterprise.
Dope. So right now you are, just a recap, college professor.
Yes.
You have your own business called 1000.
Yes.
And the nonprofit is it nonprofit? Sorry.
So I work with nonprofits, so organizations that have a social impact, as long as they're going to improve lives, communities, it could be youth, children, women.
Yeah.
I work on those projects.
Okay, dope. So I'm going to get into the nitty gritty of your 1000 because I feel like every business and entrepreneur needs to know how to effectively communicate and why that's important.
1,000%. Yeah.
Right? But before that, I want to bring it back a little bit.
Okay.
I want to bring it back. I want to know where this journey started, especially before being a college professor. Like, why did you choose that route, or how did it begin?
It chose me.
Yeah, explain that.
Honestly, because growing up, I was always told you'd be a great teacher, and I'm like, I don't want to run a classroom. I want to run a country. So,
wow.
When I did my education, I did international studies, which was an honors thesis. And so I did a thesis to look at the underdevelopment of countries like Ghana, which is where I'm from. And I thought, I'm going to rule the world. I'm going to work in politics and government, and I was doing a lot of civic work as a volunteer already as a young person. However, you have kids, you get married, you buy a house, you have responsibilities, and you got to do what's the easiest thing to help you in your situation. So I ended up at Sheridan because I was on mat leave, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go back to this corporate job. What is my next thing? And we bought a home in Brampton. Oh,
yeah, Sheridan's right there.
Yeah. So I thought through my options, knowing myself, I have to work at an organization that is big. I'm big. My voice is big. My attitude, my personality, all of that is big. So I need a place that can kind of maneuver if I want to try different things as well. So I applied to Sheridan. Yeah. I applied to Rogers. And there's one more place. Oh, the government, City of Brampton.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So Sheridan won. They called me in for an interview. Yeah. And my job with them was working with internationally trained professionals who wanted to improve their English communication.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yes. Or just learn English and also connect it with their profession that they did back home. So I recruited them, made connections in the community, helped them find Canadian experience here. So Sheridan used to run that program, and that was under the continuing education program. Now, because I am a very interpersonal person, I made friends with lots of staff, and I'd meet with them during lunch, talk to them. And one day they were just talking about, what they did before coming to the college. And I actually was just there to listen. Yeah. And then the spotlight. And they're like, well, Rahel, what about you? I was like, me? So here we go. I have to talk about myself. So I told them about just my volunteer work, my work experience. And they're like, have you considered teaching? And I'm like, no, I thought I had to be older. I was in my late 20s at that time. And they're like, no, you have so much experience. We want individuals like you. And so they asked me to send them my resume. Wow. A few months later, they're like, we've got a class for you. No, actually, we got 2 classes for you. So I met with the I think she was the program lead at that time. And yeah, I started teaching. So this year I've been teaching for about 10 years.
10 years?
Yeah.
At Sheridan?
At Sheridan.
So when I was there, you're teaching.
It was 2000. When was my daughter born? 2012?
Oh, no, we're 2012. Yeah. So my last year was 2013, 2014.
Yeah, so then we were there at the same time.
Yeah, wow.
We were there at the same time, but we never met.
Yeah.
And you were in my faculty too, Applied Health and Community Studies. So we did social
and I was on the basketball
work,
team.
Community work. I don't know. How do we miss each other? The campus is not that big.
Yeah, it's not big at all. Okay, wow. So you've been there for 10 years, right? Yeah. So you are inside of the system. And for me, like, I'm very open about, like, I dropped out, right?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts now about, like, post-secondary or students looking to get to post-secondary? What are your thoughts about it?
Oh, listen, I got so much thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. When I was in high school,
yes,
I wanted a program that would give me practical and theory. And a few years later, my sister got to take advantage of it. So, you know, programs like York, Seneca at York, Guelph, Humber, and things like that. I recommend those type of programs, or any program that will give you the experience and the hands-on. The hands-on.
Okay.
Right? We call that experiential learning or practical learning.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is what I found is a lot of the students that have come through the social service work program or our faculty, because our program has a practicum piece, our students spend about a year working in the field, right?
Okay.
It's unpaid, but they're making connections and they're getting real life experience to apply all the things that we taught them. And when they apply for bachelor's and master's programs, they're more likely to be selected for those programs because they've been more polished.
Yes.
Right?
Okay.
They've been in the real world to see, okay, you know, this is how that really works. The textbook says this, but in real life, you know, these are the situations that can happen outside of the textbook. And also in general, especially if you're, somebody that wasn't born in Canada, or you come from like what they call BIPOC. I'm not a fan of the word, but whatever. BIPOC. So Black, Indigenous, or people of color. We come from cultures where we learn by watching and doing. That's actually the level of our education and how we learn, and we learn on different levels. That's not just
theory.
Yeah, we have a heart involved in our learning, not just head. So having that experiential learning will make it easier and less likely for people to drop out if they have that heart component as a part of their education. And it'll help people understand that there's different types of education. Education not just sitting in the classroom and reading books. All of that is a part of our learning, and the socialization piece of networking and making meaningful relationships.
Okay, dope. So like, what's going on, guys? You're sitting at home on the couch doing nothing? But that's why you're going to subscribe to Black is the New Rich, so you can learn something, educate your family, educate your friends, do it all. Black is the New Rich. Peace. I am super, actually, I wouldn't say I'm for post-secondary. I wouldn't say I'm against it. It depends on what you want to do, right?
Yes.
But here's the thing. So like, for example, my brother's in his last year in university, and I just feel that information is going at a rapid pace and things are changing rapidly. So for someone that's in his fourth year of university, by the time he gets there from his first year, information has changed. So what happens then? Is that a waste? Is that like, that's where I'm like at a conflict about the idea of school.
I love that question. So here's what I'm going to tell you. In my experience from going through the education system, I learned that the education system teaches you how to think. It just puts you into this process where you understand, okay, I need to prioritize things. This is the way I'm supposed to think. And if I want to be rewarded for thinking this way, this is how I'm supposed to do things. That's really what the 4 years of university is, if you were to boil it all down. The real learning comes from what I just said, the experiential piece. And I'm not saying don't go to university, don't go to college. Yes, okay. Especially if you're in a field, like if I'm going to meet a doctor, I want to know you learned some stuff. Some things, okay?
And that's fair.
Right? So I'm not saying don't get your education, but understand why you're there and what this process is about. And I think if people went in with that understanding, their approach and their experience would be a lot more different. But you need that practical piece. I really stand by the experiential learning piece.
Okay, fair. Because even you saying that, I feel like school, like kids that are like 18, 19, if they have a goal in mind and school's just the vehicle to get there, then it's different.
You got
but
it.
If you are going into school because you're confused and
it's not the time for you to go.
It's not the time for you to go.
Because you're not ready.
Exactly. So that's where my sister is, because she just finished high school. So she just took a year off to work. She doesn't know what she wants to do.
And that's fine.
And at first, like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of kids that get pressured. Go to school, go to school, go to school. And then you're 40K down the drain.
Because the why is missing. Why am I going to school? So for me, I've always been very goal driven.
Yes.
And I think that has a lot to do with my dad. I remember when I was like 6 or 7, just learned how to speak English. And he's like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And my dad has been very key in my education. Like, I think you should learn French. Like, he'll just, ask these questions or just tell me certain things. And he doesn't have nothing more than, he didn't even get to finish high school. See, my parents were educated in Ghana. My mom, I think she just went to like grade 8. But my parents have been able to come to Canada, start a business, and ensure that their 7 kids have education more than them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was their dream, for us to get education they didn't get. So I think that it's important for us to know the why before we go to school, and to understand, because this is another thing I had to learn. Just because I went to school to do international studies doesn't mean I have to be a politician or whatever, a journalist or whatever, for the rest of my life. It's a start. And you'll realize that when you start the journey, your life leads in these directions that you never imagined or planned. I came across jobs that I didn't even know existed, those kind of things. So as long as you have an idea of what you're interested in, go to school for that. It's not about doing that for the rest of your life. And I think that's where the pressure is for people. They think, okay, if I went to school to be a teacher, that means I have to teach. Nah, there's actually so many other jobs that you can do where you can create courses. You can teach people how to engage with children or youth or adults. I can't even think of all the different job titles, right? So people think they have to have the education to become this one thing, but you can even start your own business or social enterprise where you're making money, but you're also dealing with a social issue. There's so many options. And I think that's where the pressure comes from. People just think, okay, well, you went to school to be an ECE, so why aren't you ECE? No, but the skills and a lot of the fundamental things, like, I'm a strong believer that I think everyone should take social services as a program. And that's because you learn so much about yourself. You see, social service is based on the foundation that if you cannot help yourself, you cannot help anybody else.
Wow.
Yes.
That's a healing aspect too.
You got it. So a lot of students complain, Miss, why we did reflections in that class, we got to do reflections in this class. And, well, you need to take the time to sit down and look inside you.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's some fundamental pieces. If I could, and I've been asked this question maybe 2 or 3 times in the last 3 years. So now that I'm saying this, it actually has me thinking, if I could recreate the education system, what would I do differently? Is it? Oh God. Okay. So I gotta start putting this to paper then, because it keeps coming up.
Okay.
So what I would do differently is definitely incorporate the self-reflective piece. So people like your sister who know that they want to be educated, but they don't know where, they get to spend the first year of university figuring out their self. And it's actually a course that you get credit for. Developing yourself. Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So that's what your first year would be. Doing reflections, engaging with others, understanding what helping means, or serving. Creating, all of those things. I think that should be like the first year for everybody in university or college. And then now that we know who we are, right, let's talk about these theories and other people who thought they knew stuff. Did they know what they say they know? Right. And how would you picture this, or how would you do this? We're really taught to trust things outside of us, and my education system would teach us to trust what's inside.
Yes.
Cory's like, where do I sign up?
Jeez, yes, absolutely. And I really appreciate that. Like if you were to change it up, like that reflection piece, because I feel like there's a lot of people that, come out of university and they realize they don't even know who they are. And then now their social aspect of their being is missing. They cannot connect on to, I would say, like the real world, because they have all this theory, but hey, this is real life now.
Right.
So if they had that reflection piece in their first year, things might be different. Maybe they weren't even be in the same course.
You got it. And
right?
And that would be acceptable. You see, again, that's perspective. People feel like, okay, I dropped out of college, so in society, I'm a failure.
Yeah, that's what I was feeling like for a while.
No, but you figured out what was for you and what's not for you. That's a win. There's people out here who don't know what's for them and what's not for them, right? Yes, sometimes we have to lose a little bit of money and time to figure that out. That's the ouch part.
Yeah.
But the win is that you figured that part out.
Yeah.
And we have to be okay with that, no matter how people, even sometimes our parents, I'm so sorry, mom and dad, sometimes despite what our parents think, we have to be true to us and listen to ourselves. We're always being taught not to. And I think that education also needs to have a sense of humor.
Yes. Not so serious.
Not so serious.
Let's enjoy this experience that
you got it.
Learning should be fun.
You got it.
It shouldn't feel like a chore.
And people learn better that way,
exactly.
Corey, and they retain more information
100%.
that way. And the outcomes of for me as a professor, and even in my business, as a trainer or facilitator, I get better results from adults because they went through an hour and a half training with me and they're like, wait, time is up already, but wait, because I make it very engaging. I have activities that's connected to what they're learning.
Yeah.
And I pull information from within them, because that's the other thing about education. I believe that education is pulling from within. It's not me pouring into you.
Yeah.
It's me pulling what's already inside of you.
Wow.
That's how I build your confidence, because you're the one teaching me now. I just asked you all the right questions and gave you some pointers.
Almost like a form of therapy.
Is that why people like talking to me? Okay. Starting to make sense now. I remember I used to work at the bank and people would call me about their banking, but then all of a sudden I know about their dead sister and how they're feeling, or, their breakup, and they're like, I don't even know why I'm telling you this, but.
But that's the thing. You're asking the right questions so people can answer their own problems kind of thing. You got it. And create their own solutions.
And that's kind of social work too. So I take all these skills.
Yeah, nice. So I have a question, because you have kids, right?
I do. I have 4.
You have 4 kids. The oldest is?
17. He'll be 18 this year.
Perfect. Because this is a perfect question. So for the people that are listening that have kids, how are you going about, how are you teaching them about post-secondary? How are you introducing it? Because a lot of us had the pressure, like we were talking about.
Yes.
How are you parenting in that way?
Whew. I thought you said we don't have that much time. Okay, so this is a whole book you just asked me, and I need to write it. Okay, so my eldest son, hey Trey, love you. Where do I start?
It's a lot. It's a loaded question.
It's a lot, because I'm like, where am I going to start from elementary school till now? How about I tell you where we're at now?
Perfect.
Okay, so he's going to be graduating. God willing, because I've been after him to put in those 40 hours. He's already done the hours, but submitting that paper that said he did what he did, that's been the struggle for me, getting him to complete things. And even throughout school, just to give you some background on him, the consistent things were he knows his stuff, but he's not submitting his work.
He's bored.
He's bored.
He's bored.
I hear that so much. Mom, I'm bored. Mom, do I gotta go to school today? It's boring.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So it's not challenging him enough. The information that's there. He's creative in terms of business. I see that he has a lot of conversations with me about business. Like, Mom, my friends own a studio, and I talk to them about, how much would they give me if I was to invest in the studio? And those are the conversations he has with me. And Mom, why is the education system the way that it is? I think that it should be this way. He's a thinker.
Wow.
But I think that's because I was pregnant with him in university. So he sat through all my lectures.
Oh, okay.
Babies can hear, okay? You're housing them and they know what's going on. So he's a thinker. So what we figured out is by giving him different opportunities. So working with my parents. So my parents own an import and exporting business.
Okay.
Right. So he would go there, learn how to help them load the containers.
From younger or now?
He's been there since he was born because I was in school.
Oh, true.
I was in school. I actually had him on December 13th. I was writing my final exam for the semester and I was in labor. Oh, wow. I had no idea I was in labor because it was my first baby. I just thought I had to use the washroom, and I don't like to use the washroom during exams. I think it's unprofessional. You go before or after exam, not during. Yeah. So anyways, I was in labor. One of my friend's moms actually called my professor to be like, you better be nice to her when you're marking. She was in labor. So when I had him, it was winter break for 3 weeks. I stayed home for 3 weeks, and then my mom and my husband took care of him.
Okay. So he's been in there since.
He's been he's basically the same age as we call it, the warehouse, my parents' business. Wow. So yeah, my parents, he's been there for a while. But now he can actually give back, and he's big and tall. He's bigger and taller than I am.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So people don't know he's my son. Yeah. Because they're like, you look like you're a baby. There's no way. You know? So yeah, we just exposed him to different things. So he did the warehouse. We had him in cadets for a while as a sea cadet. Okay. Learning about, how to sail ship and be safe and learning discipline and all these things. He's volunteered at church through like the kids church. He's done so many different things. Yeah. And what he figured out and we figured out is he likes hands-on things. So there was an opportunity that came a year or two ago to do some demolition work in construction, and he really took well to it. Wow. So he's like, okay, he wants to do a trade. So that's how we figured out what his path is going to be. Yeah. We also informed all our kids, we've been saving money for you to go to university or college. He's like, I don't want to go to university or college. So we're like, okay, fine. What is it that you want to do though? There has to be a goal. Yeah. It doesn't have to be our way, but there needs to be something. So even if, and I even talked to we have a village. My husband and I talked to one of my friends. Yeah. She's boss. And I was telling her about him, and she's like, listen, if you need him to come to Boston to live here and figure out himself, I would help that. And my parents are like, send him to Ghana. My husband's like, maybe we should send him to Jamaica. Let him be in a different environment where he can experience different things and come up with what he wants his life to be. So I actually found a pretty cool program at Humber College where they pay you to learn how to do, whether it's welding. Yes. You can choose from welding. And
trades are in right
different
now.
Trades, yeah. So construction, all of that. So he can figure out which one he wants to do. We were suggesting welding because there's a need for undersea welders. Okay. And he's a great swimmer. Oh, okay. He's an awesome swimmer, our son. And I was like, you put that together, you're going to have the world in your hands. Yeah. Like you can charge basically anything you want. It'll be your business. Yeah. And he's like, I don't know about that. And the Eagle stuff. So we're like, okay, fine. Go to this program, find out what you want to do. So he can't actually officially start until he's 18. Okay. Because it's a government funded program and that's a requirement. So that's something he'll be doing in January. And I'm just happy we figured out what he wants to do and it's something he's willing to do. Yeah. So we just make sure he has very clear goals. Okay. The goal is not always go to school, but the goal is, how are you going to accomplish what you want to accomplish? What is it that you want to accomplish in life? Yeah. And so we have lots of conversation with him. Even this weekend, we sat down, all our kids, and we talked to them about income. What are ways to make money other than going to school and working? We have those conversations with them. This is how much money mom makes an hour. This is how much money dad makes an hour. And they're like, what? Yeah. Maybe I should do what y'all's doing. So then, okay, well, this is what we had to do to get there. Yeah. And growing up, my husband and I, we talked about the fact that our parents didn't really sit us down to say, this is the money. What you're making. This is, where it's going. They didn't know to have those conversations. And I think it's important that we have those conversations with our children. 100%. Because then they even ask us questions that make us think like, why are we doing what we're doing? And it reminds us, yes, there's other ways to make an income. How many of those ways are we using for encouraging our kids and holds us accountable? And even the same way I take the teaching approach, I take the parenting approach. It's not so much of me just telling my kids what to do, although I do that. Yeah. You need that because kids need structure. Discipline. but it's also to hear from them, to see where they're at.
Yeah.
My prayer always is that as I'm working towards my goals and dreams, that God gives me the eyes, ears, and the spirit to see what his goals and dreams are for my children, and that I will never stray them from that. So if that does not include going to school, Cory, even though I'm an educator, I'm okay with that, because there's so many ways to be educated.
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, dope. All right, that's a loaded answer too. Dope.
That's the book in one synopsis.
Okay, dope.
Yeah.
So let's talk about 1,000. That's your would I say communication business?
It's just my business.
Okay, explain.
Yes, my sister-in-law made me this shirt that I'm minding my Black-owned business.
Jeez. Okay, I rate it. Shout out.
Thank you, Naomi.
Talk to me about it.
So, I started 1,000 again on mat leave. When you're on mat leave, you got time to think. You're like, do I want to be feeding babies for the rest of my life? No. Okay. So it was when I had my second son, and I was on mat leave, and because of the work that I did in the community, I made a lot of connections and networks, and I won an award.
Wow.
For being the most fun to work with.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Just so you know. Okay.
Congrats.
Forget the degrees and diplomas. I got that award. Okay. So, one of the good things, so there was I think they're still here. There is an organization called the Toronto Youth Cabinet, and the staff at the time wanted us to get capacity building and give the youth who were part of this organization skills to speak to the media, create workshops, and so forth. And I was already doing similar work, but I didn't have the training. Okay. And again, that was not school education training, but it's taken me far.
Yeah.
So I learned how to create workshops and so forth. And I ran a few with different organizations in Ontario. We went to like Chatham and did a whole thing for a big group of youth and anything that was youth-based. So people remembered me from there. And so when I was going to university, they reached out and they're like, hey, Rahel, we have some projects with the city of Toronto. We're trying to collaborate for organizations. Youth are trying to do X, Y, Z. And we want to hire you to facilitate and we pay you. I'm like, what? I'm coming. And then I got another opportunity with the Toronto Public Library and they'll pay me. I'm like, okay. So I said, I should actually make this into a business because people are seeking me out. Yeah. And my parents always said, if you want to make it in Canada, sorry, you want to ask me something?
Yeah, no, I was going to say, what exactly are they seeking you for?
They were seeking for me to develop a workshop, deliver it, and to achieve the outcomes for the group. Depending on the group, the outcomes are always different.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So my parents always said, if you want to make it in Canada, you should have a business. So I said, okay, people are seeking me out. I'm making money from this. My parents say that you should always have a business. So I registered my business for $60. I did a name nuance search. And I chose the name 1,000 because growing up, my mom always called me one man thousand. Everything I do. If I tell her about what I'm doing, if I won another award, whatever it is, she's like, oh my goodness, one man thousand. So one day I'm just like, Mom, what does that mean? Like, why do you keep calling me that? And she's like, you're one person, you're doing 1,000 different things. So that's where the name of my business came from. And that's how my business started. So I started just delivering workshops. But then I realized, okay, when things started to slow down and people were not asking me anymore, it's harder to keep the momentum. And I said, okay, I've got to change my business model. And then that's when an opportunity came where other people ran not-for-profits or businesses. So they already had the people. Some of them already had the training, and they just needed someone to deliver it and to deliver it the way that I do. Yeah. So I worked with a organization called Peel Family Education Center. And then I worked with a business called International Center for Capacity Development. And I loved it because Peel Education Center allowed me to be a parent educator, to help other parents while also helping me with different parenting skills. And I also added my social service aspect where I went into, there's the women's jail in I'm forgetting the name of it. It's not Maplehurst. The Maplehurst is the men's one, and the
Lindsay?
women's. No, the women's
that's a
jail
man,
is called
yeah.
something else. Vanier.
Okay.
Vanier.
Okay.
So I went into Vanier and I delivered their programs for women who were in jail for different reasons. Just really helping them get to know themselves, understand how their parenting impacted them and where they are today in life and how they could change. So yeah, that was a part of my business, delivering that for that client. And with the International Center for Capacity Development, I worked with international delegates. So we're talking like governors, people from prime minister offices, and whether it's like they're building a change management department and they wanted training on change management. I have a change management certificate as well.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I helped them with that. Or if they wanted to create, there's like a department that was trying to take their paper-based process and make it an electronic based process. So I also trained them through that, made connections with the it was the Ontario government and how they keep track of their records and just really networking and connecting so they could see the practical pieces and have conversations with people doing the work. So then that's from there, I was making funds for my business through training for other organizations. And now I've added project management. So I have my project management certificate.
Nice,
One man thousand, right? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So I have my project management certificate and I've done a few projects locally, nationally, and internationally. And again, always with a social impact. So one of the organizations I work with right now is Black Moms Connection. And one of the projects that they've gotten funding for from Trillium is FinLit U, Financial Literacy U. And we teach Black moms over 8-week span on financial literacy.
Wow, amazing.
It's culturally sensitive to Black moms. All our trainers are Black, so they understand and they're able to ask the questions that we're not comfortable asking at the banks because of how we're treated.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Just because of this.
Yes.
Because we got a little extra melanin. Okay. So some beautiful stories has come out of that. And this program, this is just the second year of it. And moms have already paid off debts, buying houses, paying off mortgages.
Wow, amazing.
And it goes beyond just educating the mother, because we really believe that when you strengthen the Black mom, you strengthen her family, her children. A lot of the moms are taking this knowledge and downloading it to their kids, or if they're teachers, to their students. Yeah. And if we can build better moms, better children, better homes, it extends to the community, the country, and the world. So we are changing the world just through that.
Jeez, congrats.
Yeah. So when I say social impact, these are the type of projects I work on. Yeah. Last 2 years during COVID, I worked on a project with Emily Mills from How She Hustles, where we did a startup in Slay. And this was about finding female entrepreneurs across Canada and finding out how they start up and how can they scale, or how have they scaled their business. And it gave them exposure, a lot of them. And we worked with partners like Rogers, for example, CIBC funded it. Yeah. And a lot of them, through that exposure, they're able to increase their business sales, again, impacting them directly as female entrepreneurs. So those are the type of projects I work on. Wow. And that's another element of my business. So
your business does a lot.
It's a lot. One 1,000.
1,000.
It's consistent. Wow. I get bored. You know that word bored? That
I get bored too. Yeah, I get bored. Like, that's why I like to have my hands in different things, to be honest. I've always been like that.
And you're always like transitioning. I find that life is all about transitions. And I think when we remember that we're going to transition, good and bad. So if you're in a bad space, okay, this is where I am now. There's going to be a transition. I'm not going to be stuck here, because a lot of people feel stuck. Yeah. And I know how it feels like to feel stuck sometimes, but it's always important to remember the word transition. Yeah. Can I share a story?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's what we're here for.
Because we're talking about transitions and struggling. Yeah. There was a story, I can't remember if I read it or someone told it to me, but it was a story about, from how I remember it, a parent was with their child and they were watching a butterfly, well, a caterpillar, I should say, that had gone into its cocoon, and it was time for it to come out as a butterfly. And the butterfly was kind of struggling to get out of the cocoon. And so the child helped it. And so when the butterfly came out, it couldn't fly and it couldn't understand what happened. So the parents said to the child, you know, sometimes when we struggle, we think it's a bad thing. But for the butterfly, through its struggle to get out of the cocoon, it actually strengthens its wings so that once it's out of the cocoon, it can carry itself and flap. So by helping it, you actually hurt it. So we need the struggle to be able to get into our next level of our transition.
100% agree.
Right? So I get excited when I'm in a struggle. It's crazy because I'm like, yes, I'm transitioning and I don't know what's next, but I'm so excited.
But something's coming.
Yes. So be excited about your struggle.
Okay.
Go through it.
Okay.
Right? Because something better is coming. A new form of yourself, the goal you've been trying to achieve. And you're going to continue to transition your entire life.
Wow.
It's a part of life. That's why I did the change management course, because I was like, change is going to be a consistent part of my life.
Yeah.
Let me learn how to change.
Yeah, 100%.
And help others do it. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so I want to talk about the communication aspect to your business, right?
Yes.
Can you explain that real quick?
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So Cory, I have worked in the not-for-profit sector.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have worked in government. I've worked in corporate.
Yes.
And I'm now in academia.
Yeah.
In every single sector, communication either helped or hurt situations. And if people did it correct, we were able to, one, achieve our goals.
Yes.
And two, keep relationships that were strong and helped in other areas and to propel in other things. Okay. If people did not do it right, well, you know, those things did not happen. You ended up spending more money, time unnecessarily. People were hurt. You wouldn't hear from them again. You'd lose good people, all of those kind of things. So with that, and also I have to tell you, it seems like communication comes naturally to me for whatever reason. It's funny because I learned that communication was a trauma for me. And let me tell you why. I was doing a course on the trauma of money. And they talked about, how do you feel when you learn about money? And I was like, you know, it makes me feel like it's overwhelming. Like it's something I can't do. And they're like, when was the first time you felt like that? And I'm like, well, I had to learn how to speak English.
Wow.
And they're like, so learning now has that connection
that
for you.
On it.
Right?
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that was mind blowing. So I don't know, despite all of that, I think because of that struggle to learn English, it forced me to learn in a way that was like intentional. Because I remember promising myself as a child that I will learn the English vocabulary so I can always express myself the way that I intended to.
Yes.
As a child, I made that commitment to myself. And another story for you. When I was in kindergarten or grade 1, I remember I was playing with a toy, and I played by myself because nobody, you know, understood me. I looked different, all of that. Who cares? I was one of those kids. I couldn't care less. I'll just play by myself. But this girl came and she took my toy, and I couldn't communicate to her to give it back through words. So I tried to take it. She wouldn't give it back. So I bit her. And of course I got in trouble. She started it. Wow. So that was like the struggle of not knowing how to speak the language, right? And there was a teacher, and I think it was grade 1 or 2, who was adamant about me staying after school to do my work so I can learn to spell and read and write English and those stuff. And I thought she hated me, but now I know she loved me. And so I've come a long way. So now my mother tongue is Tree. In Ghana, we speak Tree. Wow. So if you hear things like Etesang and Akwaba, Etesang is like, how are you? Akwaba is like, welcome back. So yeah, I learned Tree, and I had to learn English, and my dad's like, learn French. My French is rusty. So in university, it's actually a bilingual honors I did, a bilingual honors international studies. So I learned French at university, brought down my grades a bit because I was learning French from scratch, literally. But I have a French foundation, and I can get by. And if you count patois.
Wow, okay.
So sometimes I say I speak 3 or 4 languages. So I forgot my point. I was going somewhere with
the French, the bilingual.
Language. Yes. So, and communication, because you were asking me about that, why that aspect. So, I had my own learning journey with communication from a child until now. That shaped me. I've been able to observe how communication impacts folks in different industries and different sectors. Yeah. And I feel like, and I understand, and even through my research, once we can get that right, everything else is so easy.
Everything opens up.
Oh my goodness.
Because all the problems in the world come down to communication.
I'm telling you.
Literally.
And like, there's just a lot of misunderstandings. Another story for you. I remember when I was younger, my dad asked me to get something for him. And I said, okay, sure. I'm going to go get it. I'm an obedient child. I'm going to do the right thing. My dad was mad. He would not talk to me for like a whole day. And I couldn't understand why he was mad at me. Like, Dad, why are you mad at me? Yeah. He's like, I asked you to go get this thing for me, and you brought it to me in your left hand. That's disrespectful. You're supposed to bring it in your right hand. I'm like, I didn't even know. Yeah. So here he was mad at me. I had no idea what he was mad at. Number one. And number two, he was mad at me about something I had no clue about, because he didn't teach me as my dad, right? So sometimes we're walking around the world and we have feelings and emotions for things and people, but we haven't taken the time to speak to them because we're assuming they should know, right? And then there's those who will say, but Rahel, I did tell them, right? However, did you communicate it in a way that they would understand? Exactly. Because the way I'm speaking with you, I wouldn't necessarily speak to my 10-year-old, right? I have to speak at a level that she understands. So one of the principles of communication that I teach is to know your audience. I think that's a very primary. That's huge. Yeah. Know your audience and communicate at their level. You have to be humble to communicate, Cory. You can't go in there like, I'm going to come in there with all my big words and my acronyms.
Just to show off.
Right. And nobody in this room knows what you just said.
Yeah.
Right. That is not communicating. Yeah. And the other thing I'm learning too is a lot of people think communication is a one-way thing. They don't understand that it's a process where I'm sending information, you are decoding my information. And relaying it back. You're relaying it back. And also understanding that when you don't get communication back, that is also feedback, right? This person does not respond to me. A, maybe they didn't get my message. B, maybe they're too busy. 3, maybe they just want to talk to me. That is still communication. So understanding that it's an entire process, and it's not just about what you give, but also what you're receiving back.
Wow. Okay. So since starting this podcast, I've got a lot of people message me or call me or whatever, and they want to start their own podcast. But like, Cory, I can't get in front of the camera because I have so much anxiety when it comes to communicating. What tips would you have for people that communicate with anxiety?
Well, number one, I actually have to get in their head. What are you thinking?
Okay. So are you asking me? Sorry.
No. Well, that's the question I asked them.
Okay, cool.
What are you thinking? Because our anxieties, and this is more of...
Actually, you know what? Ask me that, because this is episode 20. Yay! And I would consider myself introverted, right? So I'm at episode 20, I'm getting a lot more comfortable with being in front of all these cameras, talking.
A lot of cameras.
So I'm comfortable now. Yes. But so what would you even say to me prior? You would say, what am I thinking, right?
Yeah, I'd want to know, what are your thoughts?
I would say, personally, when it comes to communicating, I just feel that I want to come off as almost perfect. I don't know. I just feel like when the camera was on before episode 1, I just wanted to make sure people understood me. And it would make me shy and I would trip up on my words, or I'd stutter or what have you. So that's what I was thinking, making sure I deliver the message correctly and perfect.
Okay. So then what is your message, Cory?
My message would be to deliver whatever I'm feeling or thinking in ways that the audience can understand.
How will your audience understand?
If I speak clearly and concise.
How do you speak clearly?
That's a good question.
Yeah. Because if you're not sure about how to do something, that's where some of your anxieties come from. Okay. So it's just, again, going back to education, right?
How do you speak clearly?
All right. Great question. So within communication, we have something called the 5 C's of communication. And I'm testing myself now.
Okay.
So one, you want to make sure that your message is clear. How do you make sure the message is clear? You are clear about the message. It starts with you.
Okay.
So that's why I asked you that question that I asked you.
Yeah.
So once you're clear on your message, now you'll be able to tell it to me clearly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the more I, let's say, understand my message, feel my message, and believe in my message, the clearer it would come out.
You got it.
Okay.
You got it. Now, number 2, understand that, like I said before, communication is a process, right? So you've got to give yourself time to now clarify your message. It takes time to do that.
Okay.
Right.
And how do we gauge that time?
Okay. So, okay. This is how I would say that. Is your audience understanding your message?
Now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
When did you get there?
I got there. See, I would like to think that I got there from the jump.
Okay.
To be honest.
So then you were clearly communicating your message.
Yeah, but I don't know. It was just anxiety. Maybe the cameras too. Like, I don't know. Like when I talk off camera,
yes,
I'm fine. I'm like, as soon as these cameras come on, or I have to make a video like this, ask it. Like he'll tell you, I mess up all the time, and I just don't know what that blockage or fear is.
Fear is false evidence appearing real.
Jeez, bars. Okay, cool.
Right. So I think a lot of times, and that goes back to my question, what are you thinking? Right. So when you're tripping up, it's because you're thinking, okay, what if I'm not saying this correctly? What if people don't understand? But what if you are saying this correctly? What if people do understand? Who are you helping right now? What if you are achieving your goals? Then you got to keep going. Right. So really it starts with what is in your head. There's something called cognitive behavior therapy. Okay. I'm sorry, you're getting all of my knowledge from different.
Yeah, I'm it all up. Jeez.
So cognitive behavior therapy, I love it because it's very simple.
Yeah.
It says that our thoughts, right, inform our feelings, and our feelings inform our actions. Okay. So when you're thinking these things like, what if I'm not doing this? What if I'm not doing that? It's making you feel anxious. And because you feel anxious, now you're tripping up.
Yeah, okay.
So it really starts with our thoughts. If you can change your thoughts, and yes, you can, your brain is actually designed to do so. You can change how you feel, and you can change what your delivery is. So it's actually mental work that you need to do.
What type of mental work? Like,
I'm going to tell you. So if you're somebody that thinks, like, for example, what I just said, what if this goes wrong? Think you actually have to force your brain when you think, okay, what if I don't say the right thing? Think the opposite. I will say the right thing.
Okay.
I will say the right thing. People will understand my message. Right? And if you've ever heard of affirmations, that's really what affirmations are. Right? But you start with your thoughts.
So we have communication affirmations, because I have affirmations that I wake up every day and I say, but I need some communication affirmations.
You got it.
So before I make these videos, these selfies, just maybe go down my list of communication affirmations and go attack it.
You got it.
Jeez,
you got it. So that's a practical thing that you can do. And it doesn't have to be a lot of things. It might be 2-3 things. And I just gave you 2 or 3. Right? You can write those down, right? And just say those, but it really starts with your thoughts. Okay. That's what will develop your feeling and then your actions.
Okay. So what are common mistakes that you are seeing with like your clients that people are communicating with, or like what are common mistakes that they're doing?
I brought up some of them already. Like, for example, when people think communication is a one-way thing. I'm just sending my clients or my customers this information. It's like, but wait, they're also sending feedback to you. Are you receiving that? Are you positioned to receive that? And how are you responding to them? It's a whole process. Another thing is knowing your audience. A lot of people are communicating to audience that they do not know. True. So I did a webinar for a government group, and they were working with the Black population. And I broke down just that one principle. I took an hour just to cover one principle of knowing your audience. And I talked about the fact that although they see Black people as one group, there's folks that don't identify as Black, identify as African. There's folks that identify as Caribbean. So if you're putting out information for Black people, someone that
Then you have
identifies as
colorism
African.
and all that. Then you have colorism too.
Yes, all
that.
that. So, someone that's African would be like, oh, that's not for me. You know, that's for Black people.
True,
right?
true.
So, but other people are like, wait, but you're Black. But especially if I find a lot of East African or people that came to, whether it's UK, Canada, or whatever, from
because they're so used to it, I guess.
they're used to being African, not black. They're not associated with the color, they're associated with the continent.
True.
Right?
Okay.
So we think we know our audience, like, oh yeah, you're Black, but you're imposing that identity on me, right? So yeah, I just took them through that, and they were like, whoa, like that little bit of information of knowing your audience. So a lot of them are finding, we're not getting the outcomes. And this is what I'm saying. If we can communicate effectively, we'll get the outcomes that we want, because now I can say, I'm looking for African, Black, and Caribbean youth, and you'll get a better response.
True. Instead of just saying, I'm looking for Black youth.
You got it, because not everybody will identify as Black. A case study for you. One of my friends a few years ago got funding to run a program for youth in Jane and Finch. I think it was like Vietnamese, Somali, and I can't remember another group of youth. And he was like, Rahel, they're not responding. The Somali kids are not coming to my program. And I'm like, well, how are you doing your outreach? He's like, I went into the schools, I put up the posters, the other kids are getting it, but the Somali kids are not coming. And I said, well, how does the Somali youth, how do they communicate, and who's the one that influences them? They didn't know. I said, well, you have to go talk to their elders, their parents, and tell their elders and their parents about it, and then they tell the youth about it, and they make them come. You trying to talk to the youth, they don't have to listen to them. No respect for you. Who are you?
Yeah, exactly. Facts.
So you have to go to the people that help them make decisions that they have respect for, and all of that. So then you can get the outcomes you're looking for, which is getting them to register for your program. So that is I would say, one of the biggest things. People think they know their audience, but they haven't taken the time to get to know them. And it's okay to ask your audience, if you don't know them, ask them questions. Sometimes people will be like, how did you do this and how did you do that? I'm like, well, I asked. And they're like, oh, it's that simple. Like, you need to ask. And just try things out, and as you try things out too, you also learn from all of that, which goes back to the experiential part and the practical part. So there's a lot of thinking, doing, testing, speaking.
Okay. All right. So knowing your audience, that's a big one. So I have a question. Like, when it comes to like the entrepreneurs, I feel like we've talked about this off camera. And it's like storytelling versus communicating just a whole bunch of data, right? How do you have a balance between the two? Because I feel like storytelling is very effective. Even during this podcast, you are storytelling, right?
Yeah.
All these different stories. How do you have a balance between storytelling and communicating data? Because I feel like when you tell people so much data, my product or something is this, and this, and this, people just lose it.
Okay, I got so much to say about that question.
Yes.
It's a great question too. Okay, where do I start? Okay. I feel like this is a ninja battle, and I'm just like, okay. So number one of the things that I teach about effective communication is increasing the probability that the person receiving your message will either act the way you want them to act or respond the way you want them to respond, or you get the outcome that you want to get. So when you're developing your message or your story or your facts, what is your outcome? What is your intention?
What do I want?
What are you hoping to get? Right? From that, and knowing your audience, some of folks in your audience might respond better to stories, and some of them might respond better to facts, right? So now, what is the outcome that you want? Who's your audience, right? What would they respond better to, right? And also, I think one thing I haven't brought up, Cory, is that there's verbal and nonverbal communication. I love to talk about that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so if you're in a room with folks that are creatives and influencers, what kind of communication do you think you'll need? Verbal or nonverbal?
With creatives and influencers? Yeah. Since you put me on the spot, I'm just gonna
He's like, what? Pop quiz? This was not in the contract.
I'm just gonna take a guess. With creatives and influencers, nonverbal?
Yeah. You got it.
Oh, geez.
Right? It's that simple though, right? And I bet you were intuitive with that, right? And thinking of yourself.
Yeah.
So they need a lot of visuals.
Yes.
Right? So even if you present a story or data, you're still going to have to do it with verbal and nonverbal for them.
Okay.
Right? And you definitely need to have the visuals for them.
Okay.
So knowing your audience will help you know not only what to communicate, but how to communicate it. And there's a lot of nonverbals. Like, for example, coming in to interview with you today, you showed me you're ready. You didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
But I saw that because everything was set up. You got Mr. over here offering water and all of that. Like, you take your work seriously, but you didn't say that to me. But that's what you were communicating with your setup and how I was received here.
Wow.
Right. So there's a lot of nonverbal communication. How your photos look, they communicate something to people as well. Our tone, right?
Really?
The tone of our voice.
Yeah.
That big. Communicates something
that's big.
as well.
Yeah.
The way you're sitting down right now and looking at me. Yeah, that communicates something. All of those things are all a part of our communication. And so I think that's another thing that people forget. They think communication is just words. No, it's everything. The size of your office, the tone of your voice, your setup, the setup of your space, how long you have somebody waiting for you or not waiting, or letting them know that you're going to be late or not letting them know. All those things communicate different things. But there's also a cultural context to it. I had an interesting conversation with a staff of one of the clients I was training, and they're like, I heard your point that in North America, if I had somebody waiting, they feel disrespected and they feel like I'm wasting their time. But in my country, people feel like you're taking time to do a good job.
Oh,
right?
That's a perspective.
You got it. Yeah. So understanding, and that again goes back to knowing our audience. What is the cultural context and all of those pieces. So yes, to answer your question, Cory, one, you have to know what your outcome is.
Okay.
What are you hoping to achieve? You have to know what your audience will receive, and you might need a balance of both. An interesting thing I saw on LinkedIn, I made a post about it. I think it was this week or last week. There was like a picture of a horse, and it asked, do you see the horse walking backwards or do you see it walking forwards? And if you see it walking backwards, that means you're like, I think it was like a like intuitive person. You're more about emotions and so forth, and you like stories and so forth. And if you saw it walking forwards, then you're a person that's like data driven and so forth. And so how you would communicate with these two audiences would be different. But if you have a room and you don't know who's what, then I would definitely strongly suggest having visuals, having data, having stories to tie it all together. But it also always goes back to your outcomes.
Okay.
What are you hoping to achieve?
Okay.
Yeah.
Dope. So I also want to know what are ways that we can effectively communicate in conflict?
So there's this, I don't know if you asked this question, but there's this book that I'm reading called Crucial Conversations, and I love it because I think it's very reflective of everything I've spoken to you about today. It gives you examples. It also has like practical videos you can watch and exercises and activities and things to try. So when you're communicating during conflict, at the end of the day, from what I take from the book and just my own experiences, again, it goes back to your objective.
Okay.
What are you trying to achieve with this person?
Okay.
Are you trying to keep this friendship? Do you really care? Or what are you trying to achieve with this employer? Like whoever it is. They had a strategy in the book that I really love called do and don't. Okay. So if you and I are having a conflict at work, let's say, Cory, I don't want you to think that I don't value your work and that I don't value your time or that I think I'm better than you.
Okay.
I do want you to understand that during that time I was in a bind. I may not have made the best decision. I should have let you know ahead of time, but I was under pressure and I didn't know what was the best thing to do, and I'll do better next time. Okay. And it's a simple thing, right? Because it goes back to
the tone too alleviates the tension.
You got it. And I'm not blaming you.
Yeah.
I'm not making it look like, I did this intentionally, but I'm also being vulnerable at that time, right? To let you actually know this no, this
It's
is
like
not
that.
it.
Yeah.
So do and don't. So I don't want you to think A, B, C, D, but I do want you to know A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
And it takes pressure off of both of us and focuses on the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So I know you've gave me a couple of them, but it's just some vague, I guess, because there's so much different types of communication.
Mm-hmm.
But what are just some practical ways that we can work on our everyday communication?
Oh, okay. Now you stop me with that one. Let me think about that. If I could do all the hard things, now you ask me an easy thing. I'm like, All right. Some of the everyday things. I think the most powerful, in my experience, way to communicate effectively is your tone.
Yes, I agree too, to be honest. Even when you're texting.
Yeah. It's harder when you're texting.
It's way harder.
Right?
But it's important.
It's so important. So I've done a lot of customer service in person and on the phone.
Yeah.
And again, got awards for that.
Rack them up.
Exceptional customer service. But a lot of times it's the tone. So someone calls you upset and you listen, which is a part of communication, by the way.
Yes.
Sometimes I listen so well that it's dead silent and people are like, hello. And I'm like, I'm here. I just want to hear what you have to say. So when you respond in a lower tone, people calm down. Then sometimes they catch themselves like, wait, they're calm. Why am I yelling?
Yeah.
So you don't have to ask them that question. And also your tone helps people to feel received, welcomed. I remember one time I was talking to my husband and I was telling him like there was a time where my feelings towards you changed. It actually improved. And he's like, I could tell. I'm like, how could you tell? He's like, the way you spoke to me on the phone.
Wow.
He could hear that. So yeah, I think that is
tone is a big one.
Tone is a big one. How do I sound right now? And is it getting the feeling that I'm trying to exhibit across, right? Because you could still be upset and angry and you could show that in your tone, but it's still not disrespectful, right?
Facts.
It'll be in a way that someone could still understand, okay, I can see that you're really upset right now. Let's talk about it, or let's see how I can help you with this, and so forth. I ran into that situation just the end of April when I was coming back to Canada, right? I went to LA with one of my clients and the Air Canada guy was like, he was asking me for like my documents and stuff. And I said, yes, okay, here it is. And he's like, I can't hear you. Cause you have the mask on in the airport and whatever.
Yeah.
So I spoke louder and he's like, ma'am, you're giving me attitude. I'm just like, I can't win, right? When I'm speaking normally, you can't hear me. I'm speaking louder. I'm giving you attitude. And he was like determined not to let me get on that plane. But he spoke to two folks because the first person was like, she's good to go. And he didn't like that. So I went to the next person. The next person's like, she's good to go. And then he just put my stuff on the counter and he's like, just go over there and whatnot. But during that process, even though he was upset, I said to him, I'm sorry if you think I'm yelling at you. I'm speaking louder because you said you cannot hear me.
Did he come down right after?
His voice came right down. So tone is so important.
What even just something I'm thinking about right now is that what I've worked on in the last couple of years is, like you just said, listening is a big one too, right? So now when I listen, I don't like I'm trying to not listen to always reply, and say
listen
I know
to understand.
listen to understand.
Yes.
Because I used to be, I'm a little stubborn, right?
No way.
I could be a little stubborn, and I can think about conversations in the past where I'm just like, oh, I know, but I don't really know. I'm just answering them just to answer. But now I feel like you said, listening and actually understanding what people are saying is another way that we can work on our communication. Yeah,
listening to understand. So
not listening just to answer.
You got it. Listening to understand. And when you listen to understand, I find that you ask quality questions. Your questions change and your understanding of what you're receiving, that also changes because you're in a different state of mind. Yeah.
Facts. What about like, okay, so I like workplace situations, communicating, right? Because obviously when you're communicating with your friends or your husband, you're gonna communicate differently. You're gonna feel a little bit more open. But when you have a team to lead, what are some things that to keep in mind?
I love that question. I got a whole bunch. So number one, I think it's important as a team leader to understand that your team wants to do a good job.
Okay.
They have the same sense of ownership for the work that they're doing. Letting them know what is going on is important. I find that a lot of times leaders think it's a need to know basis. But if you're telling these folks that the work that they do impacts the results, then why can't they know the details of that so they can have ownership or full ownership of the work that they're doing? So many times leaders will put out something. They might ask a team for their input on something, which is a great thing to do. But then there's no follow-up. You never know what happened with that information, what the impact was. You just move on to something else. So now
you want to follow up so they can feel engaged in that part of the process.
You got it, and you respected their time.
Yes, true. Yeah,
just for them to know because they were a part of this. So what happens now is you ask the team for their input again, and you're wondering why that last time you had 20 people, now you only have 10. Right? You're not getting the results you want now.
They just feel like they're just doing it for you, and that was it.
Yeah, you don't really, respect them enough to let them know what's the results, what's the follow-up. That is so important. Follow-up as a leader.
Okay.
I think if you communicating, like the key things are knowing your audience, knowing your tone and things like that as an individual, but as a leader, following up with your team, following up with your audience or your stakeholders, follow-up is also underrated. People underrate following up, and it's such a small thing to show respect to others and value to them and to keep their loyalty. It's a small thing. A lot of people don't follow up.
Okay. Dope. So I was listening to a podcast, right? And they were talking about effectively communicating. And one of the hosts were saying what they do is they learn everybody that's working for them their love languages. So they know how to communicate with them. Okay. What do you think about that?
I have a lot of thinking about that. So first, I just want you to know that I created a workshop for a family education center on parents and their love languages for kids. Okay.
Interesting.
I've had a conversation with a few people recently about love languages, and some people say, I don't know how I feel about it yet, but some people say the love languages was developed by a middle-aged Christian white male. Is it inclusive of our love language for our Black culture?
Interesting.
And how we love, right?
That's a great question, though.
Yes, it is. So that's a question I'm processing right now, and I don't yet have an answer to.
Okay.
However, I think it's a great start.
Okay.
And I think that, people feel appreciated in different ways. And I could tell you as a mom of 4, I cannot parent each of my children the same way. Yeah. It doesn't work.
It's just like coaching a basketball team. You can't coach everyone the same.
No, because my eldest son, words of affirmation. He wants to hear that I'm proud of him, that he's handsome, that he's done well. My second son, he doesn't want to hear no words. He wants you to show him. He wants you to spend time with him. He wants a hug. Yeah. Those things, affirm him. My daughter, I don't know. I'm figuring her out. I feel like she's a combo. Like my older daughter, she's like a combo of a little bit of all of it. But my youngest, her is time, like spending time with her.
Quality time.
Yeah. That means so much to her.
Yeah.
So I think, it's a good start in terms of working with your team.
Okay.
But I have to process the cultural aspect and how do you do it in a way that's culturally appropriate for those, especially as people of color. I don't know you like that. Like you can't, there's certain things you can't say to me. Because I don't know you like that, right? Yeah. So even though my love language might be touch, that doesn't mean I want you to touch me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
So again, I'll say
boundaries.
It's right? All of that. Maybe I don't want you to shake my hand. Or, I don't do, I do hugs, but not you today. No. So I think there's some work around it, but I do love the idea of love languages, and I think it is a great start, but I think there's some more to it. There's some tweaking.
Okay, dope. So This is a question that I ask everybody on the show.
Yes.
I want to know, what is the best advice that you've gotten and what is the worst advice you've gotten? You don't have to say any names.
Oh yeah, I don't want no lawsuits. I don't want lawsuits. The best advice, I think, if I really think about it, is advice from my parents.
Yeah.
So my like I said, my parents always told me, if you're gonna make it in Canada, start a business. And let me tell you, when COVID hit, I mean, I wasn't as stressed as everybody because I had my business.
Yeah.
You know, and I knew that I have an answer to making an income. Like, my business has been an opportunity for me to have a backup plan for any challenges. One thing about my personality is I don't like to feel boxed in.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. So my business has provided me an opportunity to
do many things.
To do the things. If someone didn't want to hire me for something, fine, I'll do it through my business.
Yeah.
You can't tell me no.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna fire myself.
Yeah.
I remember I had an opportunity at the college. They wanted me to develop a course, and I asked for more money, and they were like, no, they weren't gonna give me more money. So I said, okay. I just did something in my business, and I made that same money that they're going to pay me over 14 weeks in 2 weeks.
Jeez.
Okay. You know, so it allows me to address some of the challenges and oppressions that we might feel in the workplace or in life through my business. And even as a woman, like, knowing that I know my husband loves me and, you know, nothing's going to go wrong, but I have something that I can create and rely on and you know, came from me and I have ownership of.
Yes.
I think that's also important.
That's important.
So I feel like my parents telling me to start a business has been the answer to a lot of all the other things in my life. So I'd say that's one of the best advice. And I know having businesses is not for everybody, but having another income or multiple incomes, I think that was the idea that they're getting to. Worst advice. You know, I have a problem remembering bad things.
That's good. That's a good thing.
No, you know what? The thing is, and I never knew how serious it was until I got in a car accident.
Oh, wow.
And no, seriously, I was just sharing the story with my sister-in-law last week. I got in a car accident, and every time I would drive close to that spot,
anxiety.
I would blank out. And then I wouldn't come back to myself until I was home, where I guess I felt safe. Yeah. So I had to talk to my doctor about it, and she was like, "You need counseling. Yeah. Your brain is literally blocking out, but you're safe." Like that was my fear. Like, oh my God, what am I doing? How did I get home? Like, you know. So I have a hard time remembering bad things. So if somebody gave me bad advice, I was thinking about this. You know, but I'm having such a hard time remembering.
That's a good thing. I'm telling you, that's a good thing, because we process so much information throughout the day, throughout our lives, and if you can't remember the bad stuff,
I have a hard time remembering bad things.
Then you're okay.
But the thing is, I remember feelings. You see, so if I see somebody, I might not remember what they did, but I know the energy or feeling I'm getting. And I'm like, you know, I have, so because of that, I have to trust my instincts so much. Okay. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having a really hard time
we don't have to answer that, because that's a unique answer in itself. Yeah, okay. Say less. Okay, so I did want to mention this, right? Because the way we connected, you heard the podcast, right? Yeah. And I wanted just to let you know is that, like, you being here right now is super inspiring, because you're the avatar listener that I prepared for, because I remember our conversation. You're like, you're the person I've been looking for. Yes. You know, just by listening to the podcast. And I feel like lately, I follow all your socials. I'm seeing like just push with your business. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's not because of me, because you've been doing things way before me, but it's just inspiring to see that, with it's confirmation that what we're doing is it's helping, it's working. Oh, it's more than helping. Like, I don't know if you know, but you're literally putting out resources. One of the conversations my husband and I have had a few years ago was about having people in our circle that are better than us. So the way I see it, every person that you've had has been a new resource, and
somebody I can add to my circle that's better than me.
Yes.
That can help me get to my
in
goals.
that field. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like, I've already been in touch with like the accountant you had on here, the lawyer. I was just like going through your podcast is so meaningful to me because there's always quality, and it's like, yo, these people exist and they're doing it. I can do it, and I can access them. Yeah, you understand? Another thing that's I'm passionate about, is access. I find in the Black community, a lot of times we don't have access to things. We don't even know about things. And that's why projects like the Financial Literacy University, there's things that the moms are like, so you're telling me I could have gotten a life insurance policy for my kids that could have been making money, and my 25-year-old would have had $100,000
right now
that they could have. And there's things we just don't know, and people keep from us.
Yes.
You know, so what you're doing is you're providing a resource, you're providing access, even when you provide like the emails and the IG handles and things like that. So we can get in touch with them. And the people you're bringing on, they're responding.
Thank you.
Right? They're responding. So you're bringing quality people. Like, you don't understand what you're doing yet. You're going to understand.
I appreciate it. Thank you. No, I just wanted to say that because like I said, like before I started this, I had to create an avatar of what listener that I'm speaking to every time I step here. And I feel like
so you created your audience.
Yeah, I created my audience.
That perspective. Yeah. That's the new way
literally,
to communicate.
Like I have an avatar that has a name. That like, you know, I was thinking about.
It wasn't Rahel though, right?
No, it wasn't Rahel, but I can change it now. That was either in like, you know, like you're a professor, like you're like, my avatar was, maybe this person has a job and they want to super transition into entrepreneurship and they just need some more resources about financial literacy and just more confidence to make that jump into whatever the information they want to know. And so, that, again, I just want to say that it's inspiring that you're here now from our phone conversation.
What?
So that's super dope.
I was so mad at you when I found you. Like, yo, he's been here all this time. Like, I was messaging you on everything. I think I messaged you on Facebook. I messaged you on IG.
How did you find it initially?
I'm a part of I think it's the Black Toronto group.
Oh, the Facebook group.
Yeah, yes. and your video was in there, and I was like, what? I got the snippet, and I was like, where's the rest of it? Like, what kind of tease is this? You know? So, and that's something new for me too, allowing myself to reach out to people. And we had that conversation because you never really know people's intentions.
Yes,
and
exactly.
All of those things, right? And I said, okay, you know what? I don't know who you are until I know who you are. So I saw what you did. I loved it. I supported it. Yes, I supported the podcast and all that. And I think it's important for us to do things that, not to just say, hey, Cory, I love what you're doing, but here's, it's a small token of my appreciation for you to keep going.
You're the first one that did that.
You see? All right. It's all love. So, and that's also a part of our communication, right? I could say one thing, but you could see what I'm doing too. And following up with you, that's also part of my communication. All of those things. But I appreciate that. Thank you for letting me know about your avatar.
Thank you, honestly. And last question.
Yes.
We like to make predictions.
Okay.
And so I want to play this back in 5 years because I want to know where you see yourself in 5 years.
Scary. Okay. So 5 years. Oh man. What I'm hoping, I'm thinking about my age. What I'm hoping is within 5 years, my business is a consulting firm.
Okay.
I have other branches under my business. So solely focusing on training, solely focusing on project management, adding real estate as well.
Dope.
And I'm going to be global. So I will also have clients and an office in Ghana. Wow. And some, I haven't confirmed exactly what I want to do because my husband and his family, they're from Jamaica, but something. Calm down. I didn't see you going on about Ghana that way. But yeah, something in Jamaica, Ghana, and then Canada.
Amazing.
So 5 years, yeah.
5 years.
That's where I see it.
So I'm holding you to that. It's on camera.
Hold me to that, right? We affirm it.
All right, dope. So last thing, let everybody know how they can contact you And if you have any last words, the floor is yours.
Whew. All right. I always got so much to say. So I would love for you folks to follow me at the word one, ONE, the number 1000, TC, which stands for Training Consulting. That's my Instagram page. You can also find me on Facebook. My website is 1000.ca, but it is under development. So you'll see the website, but I can't wait to expose my new website to you guys. I'm so excited about it. I actually have a shoot for it tomorrow.
Amazing.
Yeah, or you can email me at info@1000.ca. I welcome emails and meetups. What do I want to leave everyone with? I want to leave everyone with the fact that, yes, communication with others is important, but have you communicated with yourself lately? What are you saying? Look at yourself from the inside, and that's what you need to follow. We need more of you, not others.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. We're leaving on that note. Episode 20, Black is the New Rich. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Everything black on black. Nigga, if I started that facts on